Hi, Robert.
Hello, how are you doing?
Not much change from this morning.
No, same here.
Right, you're busy working as well through the week. I keep thinking if you've got so much time to take so many courses, you must be on vacation or something. But not that easy. Okay, let me share my screen. And let me go into there. And slideshow. There we go. So what we're going to do today is cover basically all the stuff that we didn't do this morning. This one you're familiar with, so we'll ignore that. All the top row menu items, which basically is everything else, or sorry, everything. And then really a repeat of the session this morning, but using the point layer and the line layer and showing you the differences between them. And then displaying all three together. And we'll see how we go from there. All right.
Lovely. Sounds good.
Okay. So racing right along. Yes, you're all set with the interactive. You had no problems this morning. So starting on the top row, left-hand side, just to the left of the parish online system is what I call a hamburger item. I'm not quite sure what everyone else calls it. But if we click on that, just to show what happens, basically it removes the left-hand column and gives you maximum real estate or screen space, if you will, for your map. The problem is that a lot of what you do needs that left-hand column. Every time you try to bring up a record or something like that, you need the left-hand column. So this is really only when you're desperate for space to create the largest map, or you're looking for something or whatever. But I think most people tend to ignore this and they forget what it's for. And then to bring the column back again, you toggle on it once more. So if we now go to the next main menu, which is the view menu, you'll see that's got three options. And we're going to start with bookmarks. And bookmarks are enormously useful. And we'll show you why. So if you selected bookmarks and any exist, they will show up now in the left-hand column. If you don't have them, then this is where we create a new one. And the whole point of bookmarks is to, at the click of a button, bring you back to exactly the same scale, the same map, the same layers, everything that you have at the moment that you want to save. So that when you click on the bookmark, it takes you directly to where you want to be. So you don't have to go and select the layer that you want. You don't have to go and select the range that you want, the scale, or even scroll to the right place. One bookmark takes you to the whole lot. So just to show you how it happens, if you look at the screen at the moment, down the bottom left, there's a little place called Thorny. If we click on the first bookmark here, it will jump you to a completely different place. So Thorny's disappeared altogether. We've highlighted the particular bookmark that we put in was this planning application. So you can see the bookmark name is the same as the planning application number, a bit of a giveaway that, but it's got the scale right, it's got the zoom right, it's got the scroll right. So save yourself a lot of time. The one issue with bookmarks is that they don't sort themselves into any specific order. They're just basically in the order in which they're created. So if you have a lot of one and you're looking for a specific one, you have to use the Control F facility on your computer. Are you on a Mac or are you on a regular machine?
Just a regular machine, I'm on.
Regular Windows. Okay. So Control F for you, which if we turn it on, will look like this. So basically I'm in bookmarks, but I've turned on Control F, and this is now outside the browser. This is just in the Windows operating system. You type in the first few letters that you want or characters, and you'll see it's highlighted anything that meets that. And it's progressive, obviously. The more that you put in, the more, you know, it'll bring it down to the individual one. But usually it's fast just to put in the first 3 or 4 characters and then select the one you want. So bookmarks are specific to you as a user. So if you create bookmarks, Robert, they're not visible to anybody else. So if you're doing this in a role in which you want everybody to be able to access the bookmarks, you need to create an account that everyone has access to. Now, that it's not really as complicated as it sounds. I create one, for instance, that I call Parish Council at whatever the number of this piece of license is. And then I give that login name to everybody on the parish council. They can all come in and they can all see the bookmarks that I create. And that's the only drawback I can think of to bookmarks. Fabulously useful, except that sharing them is a real pain. You have to have a common account. So that's bookmarks. Going on to the next item on the view menu is coordinate finder, which is fun. This is for when someone sends you a map reference and says, and you want to know where on earth it is. So we're going to click on coordinate finder. And up comes a choice in the left-hand column. And you've got to first start with your coordinate type. It defaults to British National Grid because that's the coordinates that many people use if they've come from a digital map. But if they've given you straightforward longitude and latitude, in terms of degrees, minutes, and seconds, then you're going to have to convert those to a decimalized number. And when you get this copy of the presentation, you'll find there's a link here that takes you to a conversion that does it, or you can just Google it, but basically convert degrees, minutes, and seconds to a decimalized format. And then you just plug in the eastings to the X coordinates and the northings to the Y coordinates, and it will come up on the map. So we'll do it here. You'll see I put in under the British National Grid this easting and this northing, and it's popped up as our local church. And it's also in this OS grid reference square, so here. So if you are using British National Grid, it just has positive numbers all the way through. But if we go on to the next format or protocol, then it expects everything to be east of Greenwich until you get round to 180 degrees, somewhere out in the Pacific Ocean. And then it wants to be west of Greenwich, which is a minus sign. So I'm in Somerset, you are in Caen, you're also in Somerset. So you would be a minus number. When we get onto the next screen, you'll see, because you're west of Greenwich. So here we've put the church again. I've put in the latitude, longitude, WG84, which is the coordinate system. We've put in a longitude of minus 2.7 and a latitude of 51. And that's where this particular church is. So it comes up to the same place using the Latin longitude, and we put in a minus sign. Okay?
Yes, lovely.
Good. So there is a facility within Parish Online going the opposite way around, that if you know you want a particular building and you want to know what the coordinates are for it, you just click on the building and right click. And if you right click on any specific feature within Parish Online, it brings up this mini menu called Copy Bookmarks and Add Feature. And then if you click on the copy, you can copy coordinates, which will be the coordinates in the British National Grid facility, or you can select coordinates lat long, which will be in the decimalized form of latitude and longitude. And the extent, if you ever get down there, just gives you the coordinates, so the bottom left and the top right coordinates of the screen, so that anyone else can bring up exactly the same screen if you send them those coordinates. I don't actually know anyone who's used the extent facility for real, but I just touch on it so that it doesn't come as a great surprise to anybody. So that's the reverse of the view coordinates. You can go backwards and say, here is a building, what are the coordinates for it, by right clicking on it, okay? Next item then underneath view is the legend, which is just basically the color schemes that people use in their maps and what do they mean. So legend only works if there's a layer in use which has got items in different colors that you need to differentiate between them. So we're going to go back to the main menu and turn on a layer which has colors in it. So I've gone down to addresses, and it's got color coordinated features. So we're going to bring down the address layers. So there we are. I'm going to click on postcodes. I'm sorry, I'm going to click on address plus points, and that brings up this. So you can see a lot of the buildings are red dots, but some are green and some are blue. How do you tell the difference between them? You can click on View Legend, and it explains it for you there. So you can see here are the dots in the left-hand column, the different colors, what they all mean, and here is the map on the right with them. So View Legend will bring you up the appropriate colors for anything that you've done. And if you've created your own parish layers, it'll automatically derive from what you've done, what the colors mean. So, and we'll see that when we play around later. So that's the view options plus the hamburger options. The next one is print. And I should mention in passing that, as I mentioned to you this morning, each of these has got an entry in the knowledge base. So the knowledge base you get to by clicking on this little cog at the top right and clicking the knowledge base, which is the one of the, well, it's called help and support, just so you don't get confused, but that's where you go and find the knowledge base. So print is how do you produce an output that can go to other people? So the first place to do is to highlight what's going to get printed. So I've chosen the center of the screen here is now the middle of our village, but you choose to sort of scroll and zoom to wherever you want the print to be. And then you click on the print menu and it immediately draws a square which represents what's going to get printed. So if this isn't quite right, this isn't, if you want to be further north or further south, you just scroll or zoom within here until you get what you want within the square. But the square is very convenient because it shows you what it is going to print. Okay. So in the left-hand side, you've got some blank spaces where you can choose what's going to go on the printout. So you give it a title and you'll see on the finished example what all this means and where it goes. And give it a description. You have a template which gives you these choices of size of printing. So A4 landscape and portrait, A3 landscape and portrait, and then a planning application, which is only if you as a council are creating a planning application, it'll print accordingly. But those are the choices in the print size. For this case, we're leaving it an A4 landscape, which is what you're looking at here. Then it says, what size do you, or rather, do you want a PDF file or a PNG? And the two you're probably familiar with. The PDF file is for printing and the PNG is for graphics. So if you're expecting to do any graphical work on this output once it's been created, then create it as a graphic file. Otherwise, the default is PDF. You've got some options down here that you don't need to use, but you can if you want to. You can print the legend that we've just discussed. I've selected here a north arrow. If you don't want to reveal who you are, you can hide the author's name, and toggle mask, I'll explain later, but just let you know it's an option here. So when you're all set, you've got this set up the way you want it. You've chosen these options that you want. You go ahead and press on the Think button. And immediately, not anything sort of appears to be happening. You will see a little circular arrow here going around saying I'm printing, but basically it's uploading stuff to the cloud, ready for you to go. And when it's ready, it'll come up and say here, your print. And the first title of this document will be whatever you put up here in the title. If, as many people do not, you'd left this completely blank, then what you get here is a sort of a computer code for that particular document. It will give you a number by which you can refer to it, but it's easier to put in a title up here so that it shows here as a sensible print name. You get a little icon here, which is your print icon. And mentioning in passing, sometimes if people have got lots of other things in the way, this little print button sort of slides off the screen. So you may just need to scroll down to find it. So if when you pressed on the click button, nothing appears to come up, you may need just to simply to scroll down here and this title will print up, and then you click on the icon. And this is what you get. So it does this on the screen for you, so you can see precisely what you're going to get. And you can see that this is the title, this is the description, here is the author, which is basically the account you logged in with. And as I say, I always log in with the parish council account because of bookmarks and things. It tells you where you are, it tells you what scale you're using, and it puts down here a Crown copyright license preserve thing, which is a requirement of the Ordnance Survey license, but it does it all for you. So this is a genuinely legal document. You can do anything you like with it because you've acknowledged basically the Crown copyright. So you can either select this and print it out as a piece of paper on a printer, or you can download it as a PDF file or a PNG file, whichever you chose. Store it somewhere, you can send it off by email to people, you can distribute it, you can do whatever you would normally do with basically an electronic file. So you have the ability to take anything within Parish Online, print it out and send it to people, or even just send it to people as a piece of paper. So other print options, let me come back to this print screen here. We can get a scale. If you want to select a specific scale, and if someone has said, can you please send me a 1 in 250,000 picture, then you can select that. Or if you don't want one of the pre-selected scales they give you, you can do a scale number of your choice by selecting the, I've just forgotten what it's called, but it's basically your choice. And you can put in whatever scale you wish. And that sometimes is very helpful, because if you want to make sure that your printout contains something that's right on the edge of the boundary, and then you just need to up the scale a tiny little bit or down it, whichever way you look at these things. And you can bring in the bit that you're looking for. The toggle mask basically is something that we'll get to in a later training session. And since you've signed up for nearly all of them, you'll get to it. It's actually 104, which you're doing later. But basically, it's a way of highlighting your parish on the map. So you can either select that your parish is going to be highlighted above everybody else's, or everybody else is going to be dimmed around you, or everyone else is going to be in a different color around you. And you can turn that off if you don't like it, or turn it on if you do like it, so that it shows that way in the print. Well, the usual complaint that I get is my printout is not as bright as it is on the screen. And the reason for that is the toggle mask has been turned on. What you need to do is turn it off. And I've got a link in the presentation when you get it. This link takes you to the toggle mask explanation in the knowledge base, because it's much better than anything I could give you. All right, so we've done the hamburger menu, we've done the view menu, we've done the print menu. Next one is table. So I've gone back to the basic screen here. This is just our parish. Let me mention in passing that if you don't like these parish boundaries, which I don't, for some reason I really object to these, you can just toggle them off. So you get into boundaries administrative, and there's an option down there called parish boundary, and you can just toggle it off. But that's by the by. So going now into the table menu, just click on table, and it brings up this screen. And the first thing it says is, what layer of data do you want to be tabulated? So you click on layer, and up come all the available layers for you to choose. Just for today's argument, I'm going to click on allotment plots, but you can click on any of the layers. So I can click on allotment plots, and up come all the allotment plots in our area. And you can see this is just a copy of every record with its name, its status, the renewal date, who the holders are, and so forth, basically all the way across the screen. And you can then filter or drill down into this information by using these other boxes on the top. So if we click on column here, it will give us all the columns of data available. And you can say, what is it you want? Well, I'm going to select ID. So I do that. And then I can select here, the type will be contains. And in the value, I've put GSS, which has nothing to do with me. It's, or actually it is, but it's just to put a filter in place. So when you do all that and run it, you'll find that it's reduced the number of allotment plots to just those that have got a GSS in the ID. So you're filtering the information down to a minimum level. You can do multiple choices if you want to have GSS and land and nonsense or whatever you want to do. You can click on this little box here and it lets you put in all the ands, ors, or nots that you want. And you also have a choice of exporting this finished table to a CSV file, which means that you can access it with a spreadsheet, which is great. So basically, you can export all data from Parish Online out to a spreadsheet via the table view. Right, this is if you're going to do multiple choices, which was clicking on that little menu item there, brings up the box. You can put in anything like there. And I'm going to add two values. One will be long and the other will be plots. So there's long, there's plots. We save it. And immediately the table changes to all those items which contain either long or plots or both. And you'll see that everything's got long Sutton in it. So it's included all of those, and then it's included the ones that include plots as well. Okay, there is the ability to edit the columns here, which is very handy if you're doing editing of lots of records in the same layer. So let's just say, for example, that you've renewed all the allotment licenses agreements, and you need to change these fields here to the current date. You can just click on here, make the change, come down here, make the change, come down here, make the change. It's much faster than going through the individual records like we did this morning, where you can click on the little pencil and change each record. But there are 4 or 5 mouse clicks to each of that, whereas here you can just do it with one mouse click. All right. There's a facility for, which I find is really helpful, for demonstrating where something is on the map. So you've got this table of listings here, and you say, okay, so I want to see one. Where is it? You highlight it, you click on view on map, and it pops up straight away with the map, and then you can do whatever you like here. So if I go back to the previous slide, I can also export the data, which I mentioned, just sends it to a CSV file. Tells you that. If you want to include the metadata, which is basically this stuff over in the right-hand corner, when did you create this record? When was it last updated? That sort of thing. If that's useful to you, then you include the metadata, but by default, it isn't included because most people are disinterested in that sort of stuff. But it's just there if you want it. The filtering stays in place when you're doing your export. So if you have a filter in place, only the filter records get exported. Otherwise, all of them do. And when you click on download, you then create a CSV file, which you can do then with whatever you wish. So those are all the menus we've looked at so far. Moving on to tools, which is this one. You'll see that we have 4 items. First one is measure, which is really, really very useful. So when you click on measure, it comes up with this column on the left-hand side, and you can choose, are you going to measure length? Are you going to measure area? So I'm going to say, let's go for length. And I'm going to say, for example, let's see how long the distance is from here, this point where the 372 meets the top of Martock Road, and 372 hits the parish boundary. So to start where you're going to start from, you move your mouse to the junction you're going to start, and just click once. And then, like this morning, you'll be able to pull along and the mouse trail will follow you, and you can change direction each time you want to by clicking once and moving off in the new direction until you get down to the bottom. And when you're finished, do a double click and instantly you get the distance. If you need to be more accurate than 4 decimal places, you can zoom in and make sure that you've got the entire screen to use when you're measuring the distances, so that you get you can sort of take account for every squiggle of the road and every pothole, whatever it is important to you in the role you're doing it. Okay, if that was to measure a length. To measure an area, it's quite similar to drawing that polygon that we drew this morning, you would select your going to be area. You can select which unit you want to measure in. And then we're going to measure the play area. So you click on the top left corner, move the mouse along. I think actually in my diagram, I go that way. And when you get to the bottom, click again, change direction, basically until you finish, and then you double click. So now you've got the highlighted area in red, and instantly you have the printout of the, well, not a printout, but you know the measure of the playground. Jolly useful. If you want to do anything else with this, you can click on the 3 dots and save or annotate or remove this measurement. Okay, so that was measuring. Next one is isochrone. Isochrone is a little bit less intuitive as to what it's going to do. But basically, what isochrone does is show you the distance you can travel in a certain amount of time from a fixed point, depending on what mode of transport you have. So I've said the fixed point is going to be the crossroads in the middle of the village. We're going to measure by car, and it defaults to 5 minutes, 15 minutes, and 30 minutes. You can change these if you like, just literally go in and change them to what you want. But and I've given you a complete link here to the book, the knowledge base, because it is a little bit complicated, but what you get is a map, and it's not instant to see here, but there are 3 color codes here. There's an area of green, there's an area of light brown, and there's an area of pink. And basically, the green one is saying how far you can travel in 5 minutes in a car in this area, brown for how far in 10 minutes, and 15 and 30 for how far you can go. And the reason that it's all straggly and all over the place is because the system takes account of whether you've got a road there, or whether you're going cross country, whether you're going on a footpath or whatever. So obviously the distance that you can travel really depends upon which direction you're heading in. If there's a road there, well, obviously you can go further, but if there is no road, then you don't, or you go a lot less far on the much smaller roads. So basically, instead of just saying a circle of how far you can go in 5 minutes, a circle of how far you can go in 15, and another circle and charge 30, it actually adjusts for the topography that you're going through. You get exactly the same thing if you choose pedestrian or a bicycle. And obviously the pedestrian is more of a circle, because the pedestrian doesn't care that much whether he's walking along a footpath or walking along a road, but a car does. All right, that was isochrone. We're now on to annotate, which is the next tool. And basically annotation says, in this case, I don't have any previous ones to bother with, so this is going to be a new object. And what it says is, what sort of annotation do you want? What object are you going to be creating? Don't be fooled into thinking that this is a circle. It's not. It's a point. This is a line, this is a polygon, and this is a label. So if you want to do a circle, non-intuitively select a polygon, and then it gives you the option inside there to choose a circle. So we're going to go for polygon, just so I can demonstrate this to you. And the first choice that comes up is, do you want to use a circle? And I've said, yes, please. And then it says, okay, so what's the fill color? What's the fill opacity? Those default to these figures. I've not changed them. And the line on the outside of this annotation is also going to be black with a width of 1, again, the default. And I've asked to use the label, yes, please. So what happens? It now says, okay, choose the radius of the circle you want. So I said 500 meters from the middle of the village. Give it a label, which we've done, and you can see it pops up in the center of the circle. The circle is going to be red, the outside of the rim is going to be black. So all of that is, and we can finish. Now, what you've done is save the circle, but let's suppose that I wanted to say, so what I need to know is the address of every house within that circle. So clicking on the data record, and it gives you a choice of options here, the same pencil, dustbin, filter. If you go to the 3 dots, then you get a further choice, and it says do a data extract. So you click on data extract, then it says, so what layer do you want to extract from? So I'm going to click on here, and we'll just say, for argument's sake, I want to give the addresses, because the exercise was find all the addresses and all the houses within 500 yards or meters of the center of the village. So I'm collecting on address points. I don't want to bother with filtering, so I'll just click on run. And instantly I get the address of every house within that circle, which is really, really useful. If you want to export, it's down the bottom left-hand corner. Otherwise, we're done. So the annotate tool is a bit like Windows Parish Online. There are several ways of doing exactly the same thing. The annotate tool as well, but it does have a very good entry in the knowledge base. So I've given you a link here to that. The last item on tools is the asset register export. Now, this is a fabulous item which has got lots of scope for improvement, and I know that they're working on it. But if you click on that now, what you get is it says what format do you want this report in. You get the impression you've got a choice, but in point of fact, at this moment in time, the only choice is PDF. We've asked over and over again for it to come up as a CSV file, but they aren't there yet. So you get a PDF output. By default, every layer in your asset register is selected to on. So if you want to export not every layer, you go into this list and just toggle off the ones you don't want. So that you're left with, so there are 15 items in this list. You can either reduce it to one or however many that you do want, depending on the report. And then when you're ready, click on Generate Report. The system spins around to itself thinking quite a long time. So don't be worried about it if nothing appears to be happening. Again, we're talking about stuff going on in the cloud. And this button here will be grayed out until the report is ready, when it suddenly becomes visible for you to click on. And you get this report, which is indeed quite substantial. In our case, it's 12 pages of assets. And you get everything, there we go. Everything that you would need. For instance, if you're renewing your insurance policy every 3 years or whatever it is, and you're going to do a competitive quote, you can send this asset register report to each of 3 insurance companies, and they will know exactly what it is that you're insuring, what the values are that you want to insure for, what the replacement values are. All that sort of stuff that you've got in the asset register gets sent to them. So multiple pages, but I think we'd really like this asset register report to come out as a CSV file. So we live in hope. All right, so far we've been through all the first row of menus except create, which will be the next one. But because we're going to be using that, and in fact we touched on it this morning, we're going to jump to search now. So search is basically this big square up here in the top right-hand corner. And basically we jumped from tools to over left create behind, and we're going over to here. If you click on the down arrow, you get 2 choices. You can either search by address space or you can search by postcode. So let's go for postcode first. So we select that one. And then you can type in any postcode you like. I've typed in one over in Norwich on the the East Coast. And the map changes instantly, and the point you've asked for is the center point here, the black point. So, and the dot is persistent. It stays there until you've completely finished using the postal code search for the moment, but very useful to sort of start. If you know where somewhere is, it's obviously much faster to jump to Glasgow if you have a Glasgow postcode than it is to go scrolling through the whole map until you get up to Glasgow. So useful for using the postal code, or you can go for an address. And this is a bit like the bookmarks, that as you type things in, so the system will narrow down the address that you wanted. So I just took an old address of where I used to live, and by the time I got to Riverwoods, it was exactly what I wanted. It was in Marlow in Buckinghamshire. It was found before I'd even finished typing. And again, you click on what you want, and it comes up and says, this is where I've got. And again, the whole map has jumped to that point. So that's the search button. Really useful. The last one on that top line is the services one. We've touched this morning on administration. It's where we went in to adjust the layers. You can help and support is how you get to the knowledge base, which is very straightforward. And then these other two are almost non-existent in terms of people using them very rarely. But we're going to go into the administration one first. So administration jumps automatically to your list of layers because that's where most people operate. But in point of fact, you may well be onto using other choices here on the left-hand column, and that's where we're going to go. So if we've got the list of layers, they will show up in due course, but we're discussing these later. So now we're going to click on My Organization. And basically, this is where it keeps the PSGA number and lets you know that you've got your aerial photography of Great Britain account all set up. So it sounds very complicated to call that My Organization. Basically, it's just straightforward administration of the licensing numbers. Next thing we can do is add a new user. So you come back to the left-hand column, go into users, and if you've got any, it will show them all up here. You can either edit them by clicking on one line and you'll find that this column over here will fill up, or you can add another one by clicking on a plus, or you can delete one, which we'll get into in a second. So for today's example, I'm clicking on Tony, and Tony has popped up with these details here on the right. So same system as before. If you need to edit any of these, you click on the pencil. And if you want to add a new user, this is where you click on the plus sign. Or if you wanted to delete Tony as a user, you click on the dustbin. And you can do a search. If you've got so many users, you can't find them, then the magnifying glass will help you find them. All right, when you select a new user, look at all these required fields, okay? They're all in red. They all need to be filled out before you can add a new user. So it's quite precise. I think the only thing that really needs explanation is type. So I'm going to click here. And wow, did I skip one? Yes, I did. Oh, no, I'm so sorry. This is a link, so you can click here to see the different types. But basically, the user accounts are read-only, which is self-explanatory, editor, which is the first level of people being able to add new records, but they're limited to what they can add. You can have a data manager who's basically able to do everything that we've discussed so far. And then finally, there's the principal. Oh dear. I had a brain fog. The administrator is the account that is the top level, but the only thing an administrator can do that a data manager cannot do is go up into this My Organization field. So it's very minor. So you can select the type of readers or users that you wish for, and then go ahead and create the user, which will send off an email to the guy saying you've had an account created. This is the email, get into it, and off you go. Now, next choice down underneath my layers is public maps. There's a whole training session on public maps later, so I'm not going to go into them here in any detail, except to say this is where you create public maps. Public maps are where you can export anything you've got within Parish Online to a website, or you can export it as a URL, send the URL to people, and they will see whatever is in that map that you've exported to them. Finally, billing. And I'm sorry, this is the one that's only available to administrators, and it really isn't very complicated. It basically tells you how much you paid for your license this year and when the next time will be for your renewal date and where the bill is going to get sent to. click on the globe icon to return to maps. So second choice and the cogwheel services menu is help and support. That takes you straight to the support center for XMAP and Parish Online. Basically, Parish Online is a subset of XMAP, which is its big brother, if you will. But most of the support in the knowledge base is for Parish Online users rather than XMAP. So you can either go into the knowledge base as a tab, or you can just search here and that'll take you into the knowledge base anyway. And I mentioned to you this morning that the community forum is here as a new thing. We'll see that in a second, but the knowledge base is the first one. It comes up with a list of basic menu items, but the fastest way of getting anything you want is just to type it into the search box. So we discussed, creating, editing map data. We discussed printing this morning. We discussed tools this afternoon. And printing was this afternoon as well. All these sorts of things, all covered in the knowledge base. Very helpful. And then if you wanted to choose the community forum, basically that just says log in here and ask your question. And then anyone else who's logged in will see your question and hopefully answer it for you. Or if not, I get an email saying the question's been asked and I usually pop in and help out. So we're now going on to the bit where you're going to do the work and I'm going to sit back and drink coffee. This will be very familiar to you from this morning's session. So it's going to be the same as this morning's session, except we're going to be using all three types of geometry just so that you can see the difference. So I don't think you need any of this because it's all what you covered this morning, just basically what you need to do to be able to run Parish Online at the same time as you're watching this show. So just to summarize from this morning, you can only create your own layers in the Parish Online, the Parish Layers collection. The first thing you do is to create the layer, i.e. the infrastructure, and then you can add the data, the features to them afterwards. One geometry for each layer, either points, lines, or polygons. And in a layer, you determine the data that you want to store in those columns that we created this morning. And then in a feature, you actually add the data and place the feature on the map. So same thing as this morning, just to keep things easy in everyone's minds. But we're going to start this afternoon by creating a point layer. Then we'll do a line layer, and you've already got a polygon layer. And if we use the same data all the time, then it's easy to recognize what we're up to. So you need to be in this part of Parish Online on your screen. You need to create a new layer, and you're going to create a point layer. So I don't think you need anything that I'm showing on my screen now. I'm hoping that you're racing ahead, Robert, and creating a point layer. Don't think you're going to need anything from me. I'm just going to sit back and watch as you get on. Let me know if you have any issues. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Up here. Yep. Just so I can see you. Yeah, you're working away, so you're fine. So basically, you're going to do exactly the same as this morning, but just create a point layer and a line layer. It will seem to be exactly the same until we finally add data to them. So you want a name column, a date column, and a status column. And we're going to put 3 allowed values in the status column. Do that again with the point, line layer.
Right, I think I've done that.
Well done. Okay, so I'll go back to sharing my screen again. And you will see, let's get rid of you Zoom. Don't need to do that, cancel that. So you should now have at the bottom of your list of layers, parish layers, all three layers you've got. You've got the one from this morning, which was a polygon, and got two from this afternoon, a point layer and a line layer. What we're going to do now is just add data to each of them so that they all tie together when you show all three at once. So if you go down to your point layer, right click on it. Then we need to change the values, don't we, to make the required columns. So did you do the required column bit?
No.
Okay, so if you go up to the cogwheel top right, click on administration, select each of your layers in turn and just go to the column tab on the right hand side and just add required to the point layer and the line layer. So you're set?
Just remind me how to do the making it that it's a required.
Yes, so if you click on the little cogwheel and select administration,
Yeah.
go into my layers, which is the central dash. Down the bottom, you should have your two latest layers, the point and the line. Click on one of them at a time, and the right-hand column has two buttons at the top, or two tabs. One is called general and one is called column. If you go into the column one, you can just put a tick mark in this required column. Yes, no?
Yeah, I've done that now.
So you do that for both layers, and then come back to your basic screen, the starting point, if you will. And what you need to do, if you would please, Robert, is scroll to the area where you put in your pavilion or whatever it was this morning.
Yeah.
And then when you're there, you're going to select the layer into which you're going to add the next feature, which is a point. So you can scroll over to the left-hand column, go into your point layer and just right-click on it. And you should get up the little mini menu where you're going to add a feature. And then there's no difference between this and what you did this morning. You just give it a title, call it sort of Robert's test point. And then the difference is that from this morning, when you click on the mouse, it's turned into a crosshairs, it'll just put a single point down on the map, which will be blue to start with until you've saved it. And then it'll change to red. So you should now have a red dot on the recreation or wherever it is that you put your starting point.
Yes.
Okay, good. So you've now put a point in on the point layer. The next thing is to put a line in on the line layer. And what we're going to do is put a footpath in from the point anywhere you like. So eventually we end up at the pavilion. It doesn't matter how you get there. And to get to that layer, if you go to the top left of your column where it says feature editor, it says select a layer. If you do on the mini arrow, you should be able to do your Robert test line layer. And then go ahead and just add a line from the point. And so do a sort of a wandering mouse, if you like, anywhere around the area to end up eventually back at the pavilion. And when you finish, double click and then save it. So you should have a red footpath.
Yeah, I can't seem to get it to. Could you just run through that
Yes, of
little
course.
bit again? Sorry.
So we're going back to the, well, let's just see your screen so we can select it. So I'm going to unselect my screen. Hang on a second. If you're to share yours, familiar with doing that in Zoom? So
Yeah.
down at the bottom of the Zoom screen, just select the green icon for sharing. Good.
Does that come up?
Okay, so we're in the line layer, which is good. Yep, click there, just click left click once and then pull the mouse along and you'll create a new path. Whoops, oh, you're in the test line. Interesting. Yep, that's right, that's good. No, test line, yes. So
Continue.
just say continue, just say continue. And let's I'm just puzzled by you're in the line there. Oh, I see. Okay, I see what you've done. We weren't in, you didn't select the line layer. Just click on the X at the top of the feature editor column, if you would, please.
Yep.
And yep, click on the X again. Good. Go now. Select in the columns below to let go down to test layer. Yeah. So you want to right click in the test line layer. That one. Yep. Now add a feature.
Okay.
Perfect. Now move your mouse to wherever you want it to be. Yep. That's good. And drag it along. Left click once. Yeah. Perfect. Yeah. Good. Good. Ideal. Yeah. Double click. Good. You'll notice that the save button is still grayed out because you haven't put a name in yet. So it's just Robert's test footpath or whatever. Good. Click on save. Okay. So we've now got a point and you've got a recreation ground, footpath. And if you wanted to show them both together, you have both lines shown on. So if you go back to close down that feature editor, yeah. And if you go into the parish layers, you'll see they're both there. If you turn off one of them, then that's just the point on its own. Turn on the client. And now you can show that both. And if you have the one from this morning, bring in the building, and there they all are. Brilliant. Cool. So your footpath is very convenient because it trumps all over the new pavilion.
Yeah.
So if you felt that was not quite accurate, you can edit it by clicking anywhere on the footpath. Good. Go and test line. Excellent. Click on the pencil. Top left. Yep. And now move it away from the building. Excellent. Oh, yeah, you're a natural. That's perfect. Okay. Yep. Superb. And that's well done. Let me come back to my slides and just see if we've got anything else we need to discuss. I think you've done pretty well. So if I go back to sharing my screen.
Yep.
Oh, in fact, all I say is that you need to edit or remove the features and layers you've just created. If you are on your screen now, if you wanted to remove, let's just say for argument's sake, you're going to move the point that starts the, go into there, select the point by clicking on it, the red dot. Good. It's the test point. Yep. And just delete it.
Okay. Yeah.
It's gone. Okay. And there it's gone. So that's how you delete anything. However, deleting layers is not so simple. So to delete layers, you go up into the administration, cogwheel top right, and administration. Wait for the layers to appear. See, we're traveling at the speed of light here. Right. select any one of those layers. Since it's the point you got rid of, select the point layer and just click on the dustbin at the top. And they like you to be really, really sure. So type in capitals. Yep. Good.
Cool.
And if you now go back to the maps, there's a globe icon at the top. You'll see that your layer has disappeared. So if you look at your parish layers, you should be one less now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So your point one's gone. Okay.
Excellent.
Good. Well, that was very quick, very smooth. Any questions?
No, that's everything.
Feel
really.
free to ask any questions you like, Robert, because you're not interfering with a whole bunch of other people here.
No, that's true.
So if we can always move on to something new if you'd like to, or you can take a break because you're going to be back tomorrow.
Yeah, well, that's it. I think that's why it's quite handy having booked on a lot of them, really.
Yeah, because you don't forget any of it, which is good.
Exactly.
Okay, well, if you don't have any further questions, I will get on with sending you this morning's email with the video and the presentation and this one, and have you ready for tomorrow.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Brilliant.
Take care.
I shall see you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.